Hi everyone. It is now a week since I've seen the new Black Panther movie, Wakanda Forever, and I wanted to talk about it because it became a very deeply personal thing for me. For those of you who haven't seen it, first of all, I'm going to talk about the movie, so if you don't want it spoiled, go away, go watch this later. But it's a movie about grief and loss. In the real world, the actor who played T'Challa, the Black Panther, passed away, Chadwick Boseman, and we all knew before going into the movie that it was going to be addressed somehow. Either they were going to recast the character or take the Black Panther title to another character, and we all kind of guessed who it would be. And I think most of us were right. And whether or not that is a good thing is up to you, I guess. I like what the choice they made. But anyway, it's a movie about those characters dealing with that loss, particularly Shuri, T'Challa's sister, played by Letitia Wright. And it is very honest about how grief is dealt with. The whole film is very, very good at not sugarcoating it. It doesn't get into anything that wouldn't be appropriate for children, but it doesn't make it seem like it's easy either. The entire movie is brutal in the way it affects Shuri's mind and her outlook on the world and how it influences her actions, particularly rage, is something she feels throughout the movie. There's not a whole lot of hopefulness out of her, like what was in the first film, or even in Infinity War, she was still very confident and very hopeful as Thanos' army was invading Wakanda. But in this movie, she's not. She's got a very dark outlook on the world, and the reason it's personal for me is because 6 months, not quite 6 months ago, I think we just now hit the 5 month mark, my best friend passed away. And I thought I had dealt with it. I thought, as sad as I still am, I was able to move on. The hardship of the shock was over. And then I watched this movie and it all opened back up again. And I want to hit some highlights in the movie on how Shireen's depiction and the other characters' depictions of their grief related to my own. And I know I'm not the only one who has gone through this, and I know I'm probably not the only one who felt that way watching the movie, but I think it deserves being talked about. And I haven't written anything down because even now I'm getting choked up, so I'm just going to let it go naturally and see how things go. But Wakanda Forever opens up at T'Challa's funeral, and one of my favorite things about the first Black Panther movie was the showcase of Wakandan culture, which is a mixture of a bunch of traditional African cultures. People more educated on the subject than me have talked about it extensively in videos and articles, and I think there's even textbooks written about this now. Uh, all the different languages from the tribes of Africa and the nations and uh, the different cultures mixing together to form its own Wakandan language, the different traditional garb getting represented, all this stuff. And I don't know if T'Challa's funeral translates to a specific culture in Africa or not, but sitting through it, I was both entertained, both curious, and both very uncomfortable because it begins a very cheerful, almost festival-like event, and then very quickly transitions into a more somber one. But as the family is going through with the casket, the citizens of Wakanda are lining the road, cheering and dancing and smiling and singing. It almost feels like it almost feels like a church choir, but not the somber kind, like the kind of church choir that will sing praises and happy and dance and all this. Uh, I don't want to use the word gospel because it felt more celebratory than that. Even uh, I would almost say like people at a parade. It almost feels like the people in a parade playing their instruments and doing their cheer stuff and whatever people do it in praise. That's kind of what it felt like. And part of me was uncomfortable as a traditional Midwest farm community person where funerals are very quiet and very depressing. But then I thought about it and said, you know, I hate the way my culture celebrates, or my culture has funerals. I hate it because they all feel the same and it all feels like we're just going through the motions and not actually remembering the person, just going through these motions because we have to. And then when my best friend died, we actively tried to go against those because we knew he felt the same way. We tried to have a party. We had a giant 13, 14 hour board game festival with all of his friends. And so I'm sitting there watching this funeral thinking, this is different. I'm not really liking the way it's different, but I understand how great and important it is for them. And I tried to emulate that myself, and it didn't work for me, but and it doesn't seem to be working for Cherie or the Queen either. But all the other citizens who weren't as close to him are doing their best to try and lift up the spirits of T'Challa's family and honor him according to their traditions. And that's kind of how my friend's funeral went. Everyone tried their best to put on a brave face for the rest of us, but it didn't work. And I related to that part quite a lot. And as soon as that part was over, the credits rolled. There's a very silent tribute to Chadwick Boseman with images of him throughout the MCU movies that I think there were clips from some of those other movies in there. I'm not sure. It goes by so fast you can't really tell. Uh, and there's so much going on the screen at once, but it's a silent one and it's different than all the other Marvel logos. But as that was ending, I was thinking, wow, I'm gonna have a hard time getting through this movie. And I was very much right. But after that, it goes to a year later, and Cherie is still angry. She's still in her lab, not really talking to anyone. She's not really talking to her mother. She's not talking to Okoye, the general of their army, who was a good friend of hers. She's trying to avoid people. And like I said, my friend died about 5 months ago. So being where Cherie is a year later, at 5 months, it made me feel better. It made me feel like I didn't have to hurry through my grief. As much as I had to at the time to help another friend through it and to just get through where my life was at the time, I just moved, I just got a new job, and I did not have the resources to take time off and deal with it. I had to work, I had to get my stuff at the house, I had to work on the house to get it to where I could live in it because there was still stuff that needed work done. I did not have the time to take a day off. I went to counseling during my lunch break. Uh, I was rushing through it then, and now that I've got the time and the resources to actually slow down, I can. So knowing that I can slow down and take my time with this, watching Cherie dealing with it a year later, I know it's a fictional character, but very relatable moment. That's why we have fictional characters, is so we can relate to them and find comfort in them, because they are a reflection of our own feelings. The people who create them put themselves into them. So it comforted me knowing that a year later, you can still feel that hurt and rage. And there's a point towards the beginning of the movie, I think it's at the very beginning, when the Queen, Cherie's mom, asks her if she's made any progress recreating the heart shape herb that gives the Black Panther its power, which in the first movie, uh, Killmonger burns all the remaining ones after he becomes the Black Panther. So there's no more Black Panthers now that T'Challa's dead. So the Queen is trying to get a new one because Wakanda needs its protector. And Cherie feels a little bit betrayed because her brother was the Black Panther. She wasn't trying to recreate it, the plant, to protect the Black Panther title. She was doing it to save her brother because she thought it could heal the heart condition he died from. So when he died, she stopped working on it. She did not feel any need to at that point. And everyone from her mother to the general of the army to the general public of Wakanda is urging her to keep looking into that. And she said, no, there's no point. We have to move on. There's other ways we can protect ourselves. Do not make me do this. I was doing it for my brother. He's gone. I failed. I have this gift that I couldn't use when I needed it. I don't want to deal with it again. And as that scene was going on, I kept thinking, you know, I've been telling jokes for the past 5 months, retelling the stories of my best friend, trying to remember him and feel better. But every time I tell those stories, as funny as they are, and as much as it makes other people laugh, and as much as it makes me feel better in the moment, it hurts because I know eventually we're going to run out of those stories. He's gone. We can't make it anymore. That's sort of how I felt. Is I have these memories of him, but there's no more to be made. People keep asking me questions about him, but they're not going to bring him back by asking me these questions. As much as I can use them to entertain people, and maybe I'll make videos telling these stories at some point because I do like doing this. I haven't done it in like 3 years, but life got in the way. But you know, we have these things that we do for other people, and once they're gone, do we feel a need to do them again? There are lots of hobbies that I had because of my best friend that I don't get joy from them anymore. Or as much as I try to, I can't enjoy them as much as I used to. I was doing them for him, like fighting video games, like Super Smash Brothers, Mortal Kombat, that kind of stuff. I played those not because I enjoyed them, because he did. And we would go to tournaments, and we would both lose very quickly, but we were doing it because we enjoyed doing it together. And I've walked by copies of the new Super Smash Brothers game for the Switch, which I have, and I keep thinking I want to buy it. I remember loving playing this, but I know as soon as I pick it up, it's not going to be fun anymore because I'm playing it by myself and not with my best friend. And yes, I can play it with other friends, but it won't be the same because he was really good. He wasn't tournament level good, but of all my friends, he was the best. So it's not going to be the challenge it was. It's not going to be the same struggle to get better. I don't want to use what he taught me against other people. I want to play it with him. And that's sort of the feeling throughout Wakanda Forever. Shuri has the most intelligence. She has all these lessons her brother taught her. And anytime someone tells her to use them to help Wakanda in the conflict that's going on throughout the movie, she gets upset because people are comparing her to her brother or telling her that she has these for a reason, but for her, all of that was for her brother. It wasn't for her country, it wasn't for her mom, it wasn't for herself. All those things she had, she was doing to help her brother because she believed in what he did as a Black Panther. I'm not rambling at this point, but it's going to happen in a conversation like this. Uh, but then there's points in the movie where uh, Shuri says to her mom, there's a ritual that they do at the end of the mourning period, which is normally a year long, where you burn the clothes you wore to the funeral. They're ceremonial robes. And Shuri's mom, Queen Ramunda, I believe her name is, has brought those robes to a little campground that they're at. And didn't tell Shuri she was doing it and gives Shuri her robes and says, you need to burn these, you're done. And first of all, you don't tell someone they're done grieving. You just don't. Let them have time. They're rushed throughout the beginning of the movie. People are rushing her through her grief, and I know the reason they do it is because there are responsibilities she has to fulfill, and she's not. She's the leading scientist in the country. She is part of the royal family, uh, and they are going through a crisis because the rest of the world is coming after Wakanda to get the vibranium, and then later Namor shows up. Uh, but at that point in the movie, Namor hadn't shown up yet. It was just, we need your help because the United Nations and all the other countries in the world are now starting to attack Wakandan uh, resources to get vibranium, and we need to do something about it because we have not done anything violent against other nations with the vibranium. Who says they won't? And uh, Cherie's one of the only people who can stop this, who would know how to stop it. So that's why they're pushing her. But they're not telling her it that way. They're not telling her we need your help. They're telling her you need to stop bringing your brother. It's been too long. And Shuri justifiably gets very angry at her mother at this point and tells her, when I'm done grieving my brother, it won't be the ceremonial rose that I burn. It will be the entire world I burn down. Uh, when I'm done grieving, the rest of the world is going to be finished with me. And that is something I have felt since my friend died. That is the point in the movie where I said, okay, this movie is about Shuri, and for once, I want it to be. As cool as she was in the first movie, as funny as she was, I wanted to know more about T'Challa. I wanted to know more about Okoye. I wanted to know more about uh, every other Wakandan. Shuri was just kind of there. She was funny, she was smart, she was interesting, but she wasn't the most interesting person in that movie. And even in Infinity War, there's so much going on. Yeah, I kind of want to know the process of how she was planning on getting the gem out of Vision's head, but I could have found that out in like a WikiHow article or something. This movie, Wakanda Forever, is about Shuri. It's about her grief. It's about her rage against the rest of the world. And maybe it's just the right place, the right time, but the way my head is right now, I wanted that. I wanted it. I wanted to know how she was going to take the rest of the world down with her because I'm still very angry. I've always been kind of an angry, frustrated person, but my best friend held that at back. He reined it in. Now that he's gone, everything sucks. I can't find the silver lining in most things. I can't enjoy most of the things I enjoyed. I'm angry. And every time someone does something that doesn't make sense to me, or is doing something stupid just to tease me, I want to burn the world down. I get it, Shuri. I get it. People are obnoxious. People are annoying. And whatever they're going through, it feels like they're taking it out on you for no reason other than you're there. I get it. And Shuri's feelings of taking the world down with her, as much of a conflict as it is in her own head throughout the movie, you know, when Namor shows up and makes threats, she tries to do the right thing. She tries to protect her people. She tries to protect Riri Williams, who becomes Ironheart later in the movie. I don't think they actually call her that, but that's what the character is called. She tries to protect Riri from Namor. Namor wants to kill her because she invented something that detects vibranium, which his people under the ocean also have, and he's trying to protect his people from the rest of the world. Uh, and as much as she agrees with Namor at the beginning of, yes, let's declare war on the rest of the world, let's tear it all down, she realizes That's just her anger in the moment. This is wrong. As worrisome as it is that people want the vibranium and that Riri has the ability to invent a thing that can find it, uh, they haven't done anything worthy of destruction yet. And she reins in her anger and her frustration and her grief long enough to try and find a solution. Tries to she tries to compromise Namor and his people because she realizes they're just like her people. They're just trying to live a life separate from the rest of the world because of what the rest of the world has done to them in the past. And what evil they're doing throughout the movie, they're doing on the orders of their leader, Namor, who is doing it because he doesn't see another feasible way of protecting his country, protecting his kingdom. He's doing what he's doing because he thinks it's his only option. And there's a lot of things I've done the past 5 months that I've done because I thought it was my only option. For getting over my anger, my grief, everything. Some of them weren't the right decisions. Luckily, nothing as detrimental as declaring war on the entire world or trying to kill a scientist, but I've lashed out at people. So seeing Shuri on screen, realizing, okay, everyone understands why I feel this way. They're letting me go through this process, but it's a problem. Sometimes when you do lash out at people, the people around you, they don't forgive you. Even if it's something as simple as I'm going through a really hard time right now, I'm not processing it right. You were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. People don't forgive you. Some people don't. And they'll hold it against you. And there's been situations like that while I've been grieving my friend. And Cherie luckily had the people around her who understood what she was going through, forgave her, but were still there to try and help her work through it. They weren't just they weren't giving her space, but given the damage that the smartest teenager in the entire continent can do, yeah, I can understand why they weren't giving her that much space. Uh, and then later on in the movie, when she does become Black Panther and does decide that they need to eradicate Namor and his people because it's their only option, everyone tries to stop her, but they can't because not only is she now not only the most intelligent but also the most physically strong person in Wakanda. Uh, she also has to go through it herself, and at the time she's also the queen or the leader of Wakanda. I don't think they actually give her the title yet because it's in a transitional period. Uh, but yeah, her mother does die protecting Riri, and there's a very heartbreaking scene of Shuri reacting to her mom's death. And anyone who has ever gotten that bad news can relate to that scene. There's lots of screaming, calling their name out, and your friends trying to hold you as you are fighting them. But you don't have the strength to fight them because all your strength is focused on the screaming and the crying and the sobbing and just trying to remember to breathe. Yeah, that was a hard scene for me to get through. My popcorn got very soggy. But you know, that whole movie is about Sharice brain breaking because of everything she's been through and everything that gets thrown at her. And that's really the message of the movie is grief sucks and stuff will still be piled on you. The hardest thing you go through in your life is going to be harder because the world doesn't stop turning. And that's something that they don't really word that way, but Sheree does get progressively more irritated as things keep happening because she's still trying to process her brother's death. she's still trying to figure out what she can do with her own intelligence to help her people. And she's trying to rebuild her relationship with her mom, with her friends, with the other elder tribal leaders of Wakanda. She's trying to get her life back together after this horrible thing that just ripped everything apart. And then her responsibilities get piled onto her, and she's trying to deal with that because she knows she can't, or she can't shirk from those. And then this crisis that's going on with her country, on top of her just normal responsibilities day to day, and then another crisis, and then her mom's death, and now she doesn't even have time to grieve her mom because now her country is at war and she has to lead them after she's got superpowers that she still doesn't quite know how to handle. And just thing after thing after thing gets piled onto her. And as I was watching this movie, I could feel myself holding my breath more and more and more because I'm rather fortunate. I don't have that many responsibilities. I have a job that I'm at for 8 hours and then I don't bring it home. My bills, for once in my life, are paid for. I have enough money to pay my bills month to month for once. It's been a long time since I can say that. And I'm not that old either. I don't have roommates. I have a cat. Other than food and litter box, you don't really got to do that much. Play with him a little, but it's not like a child. You know, I don't have that many responsibilities. She is the leader of her country, and she's younger than I am at that point, and she's still grieving more and more and more and more. It all gets piled on, and I'm watching this movie thinking, you know, my life sucks right now, but I have these things that she doesn't that are helping me. She doesn't have nearly as much freedom as I do in that situation. I can call off work for a week and just disappear, and no one would, most people would not call me and worry about where I was. My family might one or two after a couple days. My job might just make sure that I'm still alive once during that time, or ask me if I can come in early the next day I work. But no one's going to be pounding on my door begging me to get up and do this thing that people's lives depend on. She doesn't have that luxury. And when she finally has a moment to grieve at the end of the movie, personally, I don't think it was even long enough. She does, at the end of the movie, she does burn the ceremonial robes, and it shows her remembering her brother and remembering her mom and just sobbing, letting it all out. And I don't know how much time passes in the actual like time frame of the story from when she burns it to when uh Nakia, I think her name is, uh Lupita Nyong'o's, I think that's how you say her name. Her character, I think it's Nakia. Uh I'm not very good with pronouncing names. I'm very bad at remembering them to begin with most of the time. She comes up with her and T'Challa's son, who Cherie is just now meeting, so now she has to put on a brave face for her nephew. I don't know how much time passes between the start of her going through the end of the morning period ceremony and that. If it's only like 5 minutes in actual movie time, like runtime, but in terms of movie's timeline, it could be half an hour. I don't know, but it doesn't feel like enough time. It seems like as soon as her face starts quivering and shaking and violently just letting all the tears out, it seems like as soon as that starts, she has to stop and smile because this child has no idea who she is. He's meeting her for the first time and she wants to You know, she wants to actually meet him, not just exist in this horrible state when he's there trying to be like, "Hi, I'm your nephew," and he's also 6 years old. So we just naturally try and put on a brave face for 6 year olds. Most people do. And as nice as that was for like the whole okay, uh, T'Challa did have this happy life that no one knew about. He wasn't all responsibility. He did get what he wanted out of life before he left. This movie was about Shuri and her dealing with her grief, and now it feels like, as much as that 2.5, 3 hour movie was all about her grief, it was also about her getting grief piled on top of grief, and we're only giving her 5, 10 minutes to actually let it out. I understand we want to end on a happy note, but that's one thing in the movie that really I really relate to is there's so much pressure to end on a happy note. There's so much pressure to not be sad. Like as I'm still grieving my best friend, I'm going to work, and there's stuff going on at work that's irritating. And my coworkers, as I'm saying, I'm getting tired of this nonsense. There's no reason for it. Why are we adding all this other drama that's not part of our job at all onto our job? I'm going to start looking somewhere else. I keep getting told the same thing I've ever always been told every time I'm sad. Put on a fake smile and eventually you'll believe it's real. You'll convince yourself you're actually happy. I get so tired of hearing that. I understand. You can't focus on the sad all the time. You have to look at the bright side or you're never going to be happy. I get it. But never dealing with the sad stuff is not going to help either. Uh, there are so many problems in the world that stem from people just not wanting to think about it because it makes them sad. There are so many people I see in my daily life who keep telling me, I love my job, I love my family, I love my life, I love this, I love that, I'm happy. But then you look, they are very much not happy. You know, this family they say they love irritates the hell out of them, and they're secretly trying to leave. This job that they say they love treats them like dirt, doesn't pay them enough, and they get injured all the time, no compensation. Uh, there's all this stuff that people keep trying to convince me that they're happy about. Why are you trying to convince me? Are you trying to convince me because you think I'm unhappy, but focusing on you is going to make me happy? Or are you trying to convince yourself that you're happy? And that's kind of how Wakanda Forever ends. Is see, you don't need to be sad. T'Challa had a happy life. We're happy. We had a son, and he's happy here, and he's happy to meet you. You know, it feels like Shuri's getting shoved into being happy, just as she's finally admitting to herself that she's not over her brother's death. And for a movie, that's fine. You're letting the audience leave on a happy note. You're teaching them, especially the little kids who are going to go see the superhero movie, you're teaching them that no matter how bad things get, there's going to be hope. And for a little kid, that's a fine lesson. But as someone who's currently going through all that stuff, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to be told that everything will be okay in the end because I just want the end to get here. I want the happy part to get here. Telling me it's coming is not making it come any faster. And I don't want to make it sound like I hate this movie, that I have a problem with it. I loved every second of it. It's just as I'm processing it, comparing it to my own grief, some of it just sounds too much like something that I've been told over and over that isn't helpful. It is a good movie to watch if you are in the middle of the grieving process because you can relate to it. You feel like it's telling you that what you're feeling is okay, as long as you focus on Shuri and how she's feeling. the way the other characters treat her is not telling you that what you're feeling is okay, but you're probably being told that by people in your own life. So maybe it'll maybe it will make you feel better knowing that other people get told this, and it's not just a no one cares about you. It's this is how people react to grief. People don't. Uh, People who aren't feeling the same grief you are, or maybe they even are, they want it to stop. And since they want their grief to stop, they want your grief to stop. Or since they're over it, they want you to get to that point too. It's kind of like when you're sick and people tell you to get well soon. And I guess you're saying that because you don't know what else to say and you really do want me to get well, but it doesn't make me get well faster. When you're sick or you have a broken leg, it's like, whatever. I appreciate it. I hope I get better soon too. But when your emotions and your mind is busted and, you know, the person you care about most in this world is gone and people are telling you that, there's sunshine at the end of this rainbow or whatever nonsense, you know, the sun will come up eventually. There's a warm side, cool side, some kind of dumb cliche uh, that we've all heard. It's one of the reasons I hate funerals is it's just cliche after cliche after cliche, and the same two speeches. The only thing that changes are the names. Uh, it doesn't help when you're in that situation, but you want to feel sympathy for these people because you know they're trying. You want to be thankful because you know that they're just not able to figure out a better way to respond to you. They're using what they have, but unfortunately, what they have is what they've been taught from other people in the situation, or when they were in the situation, what people did for them. And, you know, it's kind of like being taught to nail in to use a hammer handle first. It might get the job done. It's clearly you putting effort into getting the job done, but it's not effective. If it works at all, it's pure luck. But if that's the way you were taught to do it, you're going to keep doing it until someone has the heart to tell you that you're an idiot. And unfortunately, that's not polite, and that's something we focus on too much around here. It's being polite. Sometimes being brutally honest is the most polite thing you can do. Sometimes the rudest thing you can be is polite instead of useful or honest. And that's kind of how that movie ended for me. Is okay. I understand why this happy note is here. I understand why you're trying to tell me. And maybe it helped Cherie get over her grief, knowing that her brother had a full life. He had the life he wanted. At the end of the first Black Panther movie, him and his love interest are debating whether or not they need to get away from the responsibility because they want to have a family. But they just kind of don't talk about it again because he has this responsibility that he wants to fulfill because he thinks it's the right thing to do. And that was something that after that point in the first movie, I'm sure Cherie knew about it as close as her and her brother were. I'm sure she knew he had those thoughts, had those wants, and she probably thought he died never getting them. So I understand character and story wise why that's there. I understand as a general audience and Marvel's target audience why that's there. But for me, going through grief and being told over and over again that there's a bright side, it was irritating. I'm sure once I'm over, don't actually get over this kind of stuff, I'm sure. But once I'm in a better place mentally, I'll watch that and be like, okay, that's nice. I'm happy. I'm looking forward to meeting T'Challa's son or spending time with him in another movie. You know, right now I'm looking forward and like, okay, are they just gonna forget this kid exists and never talk about him again, or Is he gonna show up more? Because it might be an interesting story to take the story of Wakanda, or an interesting direction to take the story of Wakanda. The royal family's already been mixed up. The leadership has been shifted. I'm interested to see where the tale of Wakanda goes from here. But as far as Wakanda Forever goes, it's a story about grief, and it's helping me process my grief in ways that I wasn't. And it's helping me make sense of the way everyone else is interacting with my grief, the way the rest of the world is, and the way I'm responding to it. This movie has become very deeply personal to me. The first one was personal to me as well for other reasons, which maybe I'll talk about at some point. But I should have read the script for this because I'm just rambling. It's been 40 minutes and I'm just rambling. I knew if I wrote it down, it'd make me upset and I wouldn't want to record this video. And I just want to record this video because I haven't recorded anything in a long time. And this is turning into a vlog channel. I don't like that. But I have lots of things going on up here. I need to get them out. And this helps. This helps more than writing it down for me. I don't know why. Writing it down just doesn't help me. Everyone always told me writing your thoughts down would help, but it doesn't. Getting it, the physical action of speaking helps me sort things out. Maybe that's why I want to make this video because I just watched this movie, and as much grief as I was already feeling for my friend, and as emotional as that movie is, it added to my grief because he was someone I would watch Marvel movies with and talk about. The other friends I have who are fans of the MCU don't like talking about the movie. They like to go to the movie and then sit with that. They don't like talking about it. I don't understand. But anyway, I'm just rambling at this point, so I'm going to cut off here. If you've not seen Wakanda Forever and you were a fan of the first Black Panther movie, or you're a fan of the MCU, or you just want to have your heart ripped out and stomped on by a movie that ostensibly would just be superheroes, that's the one. And just add to the money it makes just because there are people who don't like that this movie was made for reasons that deserve to be made fun of. So just give the movie more money and make those people mad. All right, see you later, I guess.